Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen. خاتم النبيين شفيع المذنبين رحمة للعالمين مولانا وسيدنا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرض مولانا حجة ابن الحسن أرواحنا له الفداء وعجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين أما بعد فقد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد ستدفن بضعة مني بخراسان ما زارها مكروب إلا نفس الله عز وجل كربه ولا مذنب إلا غفر الله له ذنوبه. Respected elders, brothers and sisters in Islam, Imam Ridha is unique amongst the A'immah of Ahlul-bayt alayhimus salam. Imam Ridha is unique from a number of angles. For example, the areas that Imam Ridha traveled into in his blessed life, no other Imam went to those areas. The time he spent in those far away lands from the traditional Muslim Arab lands, no other Imam spent. Where he left this world, where he was martyred and he is now buried, is further than any of the other traditional Muslim lands. Of course, he's the only Imam buried in Iran. And sometimes when you go to the Haram of Imam Ridha and you see the splendor and the glory and the size and the magnificence of that place, sometimes we think, if only other Imams would have been buried in this land, then God knows what kind of harams we would have had today. But Allah knows best. He has a plan. He knows where to put people. He knows where they should leave this world, where they will be buried. But these are only our thoughts. The life of Imam Ridha is a unique life. His ziyarat is also a unique ziyarat. Azizan, you'll be aware that from amongst all of the Imams of Ahlul-bayt, there are two Imams whose ziyarat is mostly mentioned with fazilat, with sawab, with emphasis. This is number one, Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Number two, Imam Ridha alayhi salatu was salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Muhammad. These two ziyarats, they stand out. Now in today's lecture, I want to share with you some of the teachings we have regarding Imam Ridha and his ziyarat, and share with you some of the amazing effects of this ziyarat. And inshallah, maybe, who knows, we get such a motivation that Allah grants us tawfiq to visit Imam Ali ibn Musa Ridha, inshallah. The first thing that we come across is that the Za'ir of Imam, he gained some very, very special characteristics. Someone actually came to our ninth Imam, the son of the eighth Imam, Imam Muhammad Taqi alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Muhammad. This person had heard a lot about the ziyarat and the sawab of the ziyarat of the eighth Imam. By that time, eighth Imam has become shaheed. Ninth Imam's imamat is going on. He comes to the ninth Imam and he says, Mawla, an Ali ibn Mahziyar. Ali ibn Mahziyar, the famous companion, he comes to Imam Jawad. He says, Mawla, qala qultu li Abi Ja'far. I said to Imam Jawad, Ju'iltu fidak. May I be sacrificed for you. I have a question. Ziyaratul Ridha afdal? Is going for ziyarah to your father, Imam Ridha, better? Am ziyaratu Abi Abdullah? Or going for ziyarah to Karbala for Imam Hussein alayhi salam? Usually we would, hands down, always say that Imam Hussein's ziyarat is the most emphasized. Listen to the jawab of Imam Jawad. فَقَالَ زِيَارَةُ أَبِي أَفْضَلُ. The ziyarat of my father, Imam Ridha, is more superior than the ziyarat of Imam Hussein. In some riwayat we have this. In some riwayat, we have this emphasis for the ziyarat of the eighth Imam. The man says to him, why Mawla? Why is it like that? We've heard so much about Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Why do you say that your father's ziyarat is so special? Listen to his answer. Only Ahlul-bayt can give this type of answer. He says the following. He says, look, Imam Hussein alayhi salam in his place absolutely revered, respected everything. But Imam Hussein alayhi salam is revered by all, or at least we can say most of the Muslims, they revere him. You take any Muslim right now, whatever sect, whatever place they are from, whatever Islam they believe in, you ask them, what do you say about Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam, for example, and he'll tell you, oh yes, we really love him, grandson of Rasulullah, son of Ali ibn Abi Talib, one of the closest people to the Holy Prophet. The Holy Prophet loved him a lot. They will not say Imam maybe, because they don't believe that, but they'll say, oh yes, we respect him. You go to Karbala today, you'll see many Ahl Sunnah are there doing the ziyarat of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But look what Imam Jawad says. He says, the ziyarat of my father is afdal and more meritorious because Anna Aba Abdullah yazuruhu kullun nas. Everyone goes for the ziyarat of Imam Hussein. Everyone to a certain extent believes in the sanctity of Imam Hussein to whatever extent. Wa abi, but as for my father, la yazuruhu illa al-khawas min ash-Shia. Only the special Shias of Amir al-Mu'mineen will visit my father. Why is this? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Why is this? Well, we need to look a little bit in history. If you look at history, you'll find every Imam, when you come to each and every Imam, you'll find some kind of split. Come to the fourth Imam, split. Fifth and sixth Imams, you'll find a split. From sixth Imam, you'll find another split. Within Shiaism, I'm talking about. First of all, Sunni Shia split. Then, Shias among Shias splitting. Come to seventh Imam, another split. Waqifiyya sect, for example. Come to the eighth Imam, no more splits. No more splits amongst the Shia. Not any major kind of split you will see amongst the Shia Ummah from Imam Ridha onwards. So basically, if you are hashed Imami, if you are 8 Imam believer, more than likely you will be Dawazda Imami. You will be 12 Imam believer. There are no more major splits after 8th Imam. So who visits Imam Ali ibn Musa Ridha? Khawas min ash-Shia. The special, the Dawazda Imamis, they will visit my father, Ali ibn Musa Ridha. Riwayat from Imam Jawad. Second thing, for the fortunate person, for the lucky person who gets the invitation from Imam Ali ibn Musa Ridha to visit him, Imam al-Ridha says the following, Man zarani ala bu'di dari. He says, look, who comes and takes the trouble to visit me in my far-off place? He recognizes that it is far off. In my far-off place, he comes to visit me. He takes the trouble to visit me. Ataytuhu. I will also visit him. Imam, what we say, Imam, A'imma, kisi ke makrooz nahi hote. A'imma are not ever indebted to anyone. Imams will never have anyone's udhar on them. He says, I will come to you, come to visit me, I will come to visit you. Where, when, how? Yawm al-Qiyamah, on the day of judgment. Fi thalathi mawatin. I will come in those 3 very scary circumstances on the day of judgment. Hatta ukhallisahu min ahwaliha. I will come at a time that I will rescue that person from the fears and the terrors of those moments. Which are those 3 places, Mawla? إِذَا تَتَايَرَتِ الْكُتُبْ يَمِينًا وَشِمَالًا. When the books of deeds are being handed out, some receive them in the right hand. Oh Allah, make us from the Ashabul Yameen, the people of the right hand. Some people will receive it in their left. Some people will receive it from behind them. Some people, it will be hanging over them. At this critical time when there will be terror and chaos, I will come to my Zair and I will relieve his fear and his terror. Second place, وَعِنْدَ السِّرَاطِ. On the Pule Sirat. When my Zair stands on that Pule Sirat, he sees in front of him a long road ahead. Every place has a checkpoint. Every place he has to stop and give account. Every place he has to give hisab and kitab. At that point, I will be there for him. Number 2. Number 3, وَإِنْدَ الْمِيزَانِ. When you go to weigh your deeds in front of Allah, when your deeds are put in that mizan, that balance, that scale, when you are being checked, that how good were you, how bad were you, what did you bring for your akhirat, I will be there for you. There was an alim, Haj Ayatullah Sheikh Murtaza Ha'iri. Ayatullah Murtaza Ha'iri. Ayatullah Murtaza Ha'iri was Ashiq Imam Ridha, lover to the nth degree of Imam Ridha. This alim, he used to say himself, my pleasure, my precious thing in this world, the thing that I look forward to is going for the ziyarat of Ali ibn Musa Ridha. Anytime he would meet someone, if they were to tell him, I'm from Mashhad, he would cry. He had that much connection with Mashhad and Imam Ridha. This alim, he managed to do the ziyarat of Imam Ridha alayhi salam in his lifetime 70 times. 70 times he did the ziyarat of Mashhad. They say this is what happened to him. He had done 69. He was going for the 70th. When he was reciting ziyarat the 70th time, Imam Ridha alayhi salam spoke to him and says, "Oh my beloved, this is your final ziyarat. Next ziyarat, I will visit you. You don't visit me." He understood at that moment that this is my last ziyarat. After this, I'm not going to live long. I'm not long for this world. They say that after that ziyarat, he would come out of the haram, walk a few steps, run back inside. Come out of the haram, walk a few steps, run back inside. Come out of the haram, walk a few steps, run back. He could not take that sense of separation from Imam Ridha. After that, he didn't live long. He passed away. He had a deal. He and the great Ayatollah Mar'ashi Najafi, they had a deal. They said, whichever one of us goes first, he comes and reports to the other one what happened and what did they experience. They say that after this Aghaya Murtaza Ha'iri passes away, he comes into the dream of one of his students. His student narrates the following. He says, I saw my Ustad Ayatollah Ha'iri in a dream after he had died. I said to him, Agha, tell me what happened. How was it? He said, let me tell you about my first night in the grave. My first night in the grave, 2 angels entered into my presence and they began to ask me questions. I became so terrified and I became so scared. I've never been that scared ever before. As they were beginning to speak, I heard from a long distance away, a voice was calling. The voice was saying, don't fear, don't fear, don't fear. And as he was saying, don't fear, I could hear the voice getting closer. So I felt that the person is walking towards me. Keeps calling out, don't fear, don't fear, don't fear. When he reaches near me, the 2 angels see him and they leave. This man then comes to me and says to me, from now on, don't worry. These angels won't return. They have nothing more to do with you. I said, I'm very sorry, but tell me, who are you? He said, listen, let me just tell you this much. This was my first visitation. I owe you 69 more visitations. I will see you 69 more times. A'imma kisi ke makrooz nahi rehte. A'imma do not stay indebted to, and you give something to A'imma alayhimus salam, they'll give it back to you tenfold. Imam Ridha, he will visit us. He has taken this on himself. He has told us that I will visit you at the most critical times. You want help in this world? You want ilm, for example? Then come to Khuzan al-ilm. We are the treasure troves of knowledge. You want, for example, your love for Allah to increase? Then we are at-tamina fi mahabbatillah. We are the ones completely immersed in the love of Allah. Come to us. You want your akhlaq to improve? Well, we are muntaha al-hilm. We are the uttermost, topmost people of forbearance and sabr and akhlaq. We will help you with this. A'imma alayhimus salam. This is number 2. Number 3, with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sometimes, Azizan, we go through life, we have difficulties. These difficulties sometimes get us down. We feel negative. Our heart feels heavy. One of the cures of this kind of feeling of heaviness, of a heart which is hurt, which is hurting in pain, is the ziyarat of Imam Raza. Rasulullah says, Satudfanu, soon. Rasulullah was when? Eight generations before. He says, Satudfanu, soon a part of me will be buried in Khurasan. Khurasan is Mashhad. A part of me will be buried in Khurasan. One who is grieving, who is hurting, who has pain, will visit him. Allah will remove all his grief and hurt and pain. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allah will remove his grief and his pain. And the mudhnib, someone who is a sinner, will go and visit him. Allah will forgive his sins. Azizan, the ziyarat of Imam Ridha alayhi salam is something very, very special. Because Imam Ridha is special. Imam Ridha is very, very special. One more hadith for your attention. This is from 7th Imam, Imam Musa ibn Ja'far alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. What is the extent, before I go into the hadith, what is the extent of the power of Allah? Is there any limit? Is there any extent? No. What is the extent of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What is the extent of the kindness and compassion? Can we put a quantity on it? No, He's unlimited. Listen to this. Imam Kazim says, Manzara qabra waladi Ali. One who visits the grave of my son Ali, meaning Imam Ridha. Kana lahu indallahi kasab'ina hajjatan mabrura. He will get the sawab of 70 accepted Hajj. Rawi, the Rawi means the reporter, the narrator, he got a bit shocked, he got a bit surprised. He says, Mawla, sab'ina Hajj, 70 Hajjis, 70 Hajjis. Imam Kazim blew him out of the park. Na'am, wa sab'ina alf Hajja. 70, yes. Actually, 70,000 Hajjis. He says, Mawla, sab'ina alfa Hajj, 70,000 Hajjis. He says, Rubba Hajjatin la tuqbal. And yes, 70,000 Hajjis. Sometimes people do Hajj and they are not accepted. These will be 70,000 accepted Hajjis. وَمَنْ بَاتَ عِنْدَهُ لَيْلَةً. And if you go and you spend good time, quality time, you spend some time with Imam Ridha, you sleep the night there, for example, you stay the night in his city, كَانَ كَمَنْ زَارَ اللَّهَ فِي عَرْشِهِ. It is like someone who visits Allah on his throne. This person is now getting very disturbed. He says, فَقُلْتُ. I asked again, كَمَنْ زَارَ اللَّهَ فِي عَرْشِهِ. Like someone who visits God on his throne? قَالَ نَعَمْ. He said, yes, indeed. إِذَا كَانَ يَوْمُ الْقِيَامَةِ. And when the day of judgment comes, كَانَ عَلَىٰ أَرْشِ الرَّحْمَنِ أَرْبَعَةٌ مِنَ الْأَوَّلِينَ. You will see 4 people from the previous generations and 4 people from the later generations. As for the 4 from the previous, they will be فَنُوحٌ وَإِبْرَاهِيمٌ وَمُوسَى وَعِيسَى. The great prophets of Allah. Nabi Nuh, Nabi Ibrahim, Nabi Musa, Nabi Isa. وَأَمَّا الْأَرْبَعَ مِنَ الْآخِرِينَ. As for those who are from the later generation, they are the following. Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Aliyun Amirul Mu'mineen, Imam Hassan Mujtaba, Imam Hussein. These 4 are the ones from the latter generations, alayhim wasalam. Thumma yamud al-midmar fayakudu ma'ana. Then these 8 people, 4 from the previous, 4 from the later, the Panjatan 4 people, 4 prophets, they will then lay out a sufra. They will then lay out a tablecloth. They will then host people. They will call people, come and sit with us. Enjoy with us. Come around the arsh of Allah and sit with us. Enjoy with us. فَيَقْعُدُ مَعَنَا مَنْ زَارَ قُبُورَ الْأَئِمَّةِ. Those who will come to sit with us are those who performed the ziyarat of the graves of the Imams. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Illa anna a'lahum darajatan. And from all of them who perform the different ziyarats of the different Imams, from all of them, the highest in rank of all of these different zawar of the different Aimma, wa aqrabahum, and the closest of them to us will be Zuwaru Qabri Waladi Aliyin alayhi salam, will be the zawar of the grave of my son Ali ibn Musa Ridha alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Azizan, have you ever thought why Nanpanthi, we've been taught from our childhood, in our culture, in our communities, in our excellent methods of our elders, may Allah bless their souls and give them a high station in the hereafter, why we were told always, we were brought up, do the ziyarat of Imam Hussein, Imam Ridha and Imam Zaman. Why? One of the reasons is this. One of the reasons is this. Imam Hussein ziyarat, heavily emphasized. Imam Ridha ziyarat, heavily emphasized. Imam Zaman, of course, our current living Imam. Many people, they question, why only these three? Why not all 14? Baba, you want to do 14? Bismillah. No issue at all. There is no hadith, no riwayat which says only these three. There is no hadith, there is no riwayat that I have seen which says only salute these three. But let me tell you something. It's not wrong to salute these three at all. Awwalana Muhammad. Awsatuna Muhammad. Kulluna Muhammad. We are saluting three representing 14. Sometimes we do the ziyarat of one representing 14. We don't really differentiate here. This is just a good practice. I don't know why when the community has a good practice, someone has to come along and question something like this. It's a mustahab practice. Let people get on with it. It's not a bad thing at all. Someone who wants to do 14, Bismillah, no issue at all. But someone who wants to do these three, it's their habit from childhood, let them get along with it. Let them get on with it, it's fine. We are still doing the ziyarat of Aimma alayhimus salam. But this is one of the reasons that we do this, that because it has been so heavily emphasized. When we stand for the ziyarat of Imam Ridha, after our namazes, at different times, after majlis for example, what do we say? Let's have a look at some of these sentences with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So at least when we recite them, we recite with some ma'rifat and we know what we are saying. Assalamu alayka ya gharib al-ghuraba. I give my salam to you, O the one who is the most lonely of all the lonely ones. In other words, you have ended up somewhere very far from your hometown. No other Imam is as far as you from their hometown. Mu'in al-du'afa'i wal-fuqara. Ya Imam Ridha, I am standing here saying salam to you, bearing witness. You are the helper of the weak and the poor. We come to you as weak. We come to you as poor. Imam Ridha, we are nothing. Imam Ridha, our everything is you. Our life, our soul, our heart, our mind, our brain is you. Everything is you. Imam Ridha, help us. We need your help. Ya Shamsa Shumus. Oh, the sun, S-U-N, the sun, the suraj of all the suns. You are the bright star of Ahlul-bayt. Anisan Nufus. You help the souls at their time of death. You help their souls at the time of death. Ayyuhal madafun bi ardi Tus. Oh, the one buried in the far off land of Tus. Tus was Khurasan, Tus, Mashhad. These are all referring to the same rough geographical area. Kun shafi'ana wa shafi'a walidayna. Be my intercessor and the intercessor for my parents as well on the day of judgment. Then we have, for example, this practice, Imam Zamin. Koi safar ma jatu hoy, what do we do? Imam Zamin band. Right? When you get to your destination, open it, give it as sadaqah. Where does this come from? How is Imam Zamin? I want to share something with you. In one of his books, Sheikh Abbas Qummi narrates the following. He says that there was a very pious man called Haj Ali Baghdadi, and he had the good fortune to meet Imam Zaman, Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. In their conversation, in the course of their conversation, he says, I asked the 12th Imam a question. I said, Mawla, once I was in Mashhad, Haj Ali Baghdadi is saying, once I was in Mashhad, and I met another Za'ir, I met another pilgrim, and we started talking, and he was from Najaf. So I asked him a question. I said, brother, tell me, when you're in ziyarat, you exchange stories, you ask each other, how was it for you? How was the haram for you? How was your ziyarat, etc., etc. I asked him, brother, how has it been for you? What do you expect from this ziyarat? You've done the ziyarat of Aitam. What do you expect? He says, Wallah, I expect paradise. I said, how can you justify this? Tell me more. He says, I've been here in Mashhad for 2 weeks. I have devoted 2 weeks in the haram of Imam Ridha alayhi salam. Every day, I've been doing ziyarat, I've been doing my ibadat, I've been eating only the tabarrukat, the niyaz, the tabarruk, the fatiha that is given from the haram. Now this food which I have consumed, it has become part of my flesh. It has become part of my flesh. Now I do not think Munkar and Nakir will have the guts to come near me. So Haj Ali Baghdadi says to Imam Zaman, he says, Mawla, I want to know, does this have any relevance? Does this have any truth? Can he really say this? Imam Zaman answered, Wallah, this is true because my grandfather, Imam Ridha, is Imam Zamin. He is the protecting Imam. He protects. Those who go for his ziyarat, he protects them. Give something to Ahlul-bayt, see what you get in return. Do something for them, see how they repay you. In your day, throughout your prayers, your du'as, after your namaz, even from this long distance away, we can always do the ziyarat of Imam Ridha and gain that kind of connection and that sawab. One thing which we find, and I'll finish with this, one thing which we find, there's an amazing connection with Imam Raza and Shifaya Mariz. Khudaya, those of us who are suffering with illnesses, oh Allah, we ask you for shifa. There is an amazing connection of Imam with Shifaya Mariz. I was reading recently, there was a man, he was in the haram, and he sees that there's another guy who's at the wuzu, the wuzu area. And he's trying to do wuzu, but he's doing it completely wrong. He's doing it completely wrong. I said, I have to help this guy. He goes close to him, he says, Agha, this wuzu you're doing is wrong, this is incorrect. He looked at me, he answered me in English. I'm speaking Farsi, he's talking English. I don't know what he's saying, he doesn't know what I'm saying. So we found someone who was a bilingual, and he helped us communicate. I said, you're doing wuzu wrong. He said, look, I don't know about this wuzu. I'm not even a Muslim, I'm a Christian. All I know, I am here to pay honor and homage to this great man. And I have been told that you have to wash in a certain way to go inside this great man's shrine. I asked him, you're a Christian. How have you come to know this great man? He says, let me tell you. He said one day, he says, so I'm from America. I'm a Christian. I'm not part of your faith. My wife was suffering from a brain tumor. We had got the news from the doctor. Doctor said she has 6 months. If I was you, I would take care of her, give her the best life possible in the next 6 months. She doesn't have more than 6 months. I went to work. I'm a pilot. I fly planes. I went to work. And I have a colleague who was called Imad. This Imad, I just knew him as a Muslim, but he turned out to be a Shia Muslim. He saw I was feeling down, he saw I was upset, he asked me, he said, "What's up? You don't look right today." He said, "Look, this is what happened. The doctor said this, my wife's only got 6 months to live, I'm all stressed, I'm all worried." Imad said to me, "Don't worry, your wife will be fine." I said, "Imad, listen, this one is beyond anyone. This has been sealed. 6 months she's got." Imad went to the head of that whatever aviation authority was or whatever airport it was. He went to the head of that division and they did something and he convinced that person and they changed some of the schedules. So Imad comes now back to this guy, this pilot. He said, "Look, I can see that in your schedule you have these few flights coming up, correct?" He said, "Yes, correct." He goes, "Do you mind if I make a couple of changes here and there?" He said, "No, go ahead." He said, "Look, one of your flights, it flies over this area. You'll be in a certain spot during your flight. That city down there is called Mashhad. When you fly over, there's a man there who is buried. That man's name is Ali ibn Musa Ridha. When you are there, when you are flying over, look down. You may even see his shrine because it's a magnificent place. You may even see his shrine. When you are there, why don't you just tell him, 'Oh Ali ibn Musa Ridha, help me. My wife is in a problem. Help me out.'" He said, I said, "You know what? Why not? I got no other option. All the doors are shut for me." So that day comes, he takes the flight, he flies the plane, he's over the skies of Mashhad and he speaks to Imam Ridha. He lands his plane, he gets off the plane, he goes to his hotel or wherever he was staying. He rings his wife to check how she is. His wife answers the phone and she begins to cry. He says, "What's wrong? Is everything okay?" She says, "Tell me one thing. Who is Imam Ridha? Who is Imam Ridha?" I said to my wife, "I don't know what you're saying. What do you mean? What's this word?" She said, "No, who is Imam Ridha?" I said, "Tell me, why? How do you know this word?" She said to me, "I was asleep, I was resting, a man came in to my dream and he told me, 'Stand up.' I said, 'I don't know who you are, but I can't stand up. I need to rest. The doctor has told me to rest. And when I rest and I sleep, I feel better.' He said, 'I am telling you, stand up.' She said, 'But who are you?' He says, 'I am Imam Ridha. I have a message for you. Number one, you are cured. Number two, tell your husband to give my salams to Imad, his colleague. He should tell Imad, any other marees you have, send them to me.'" Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Any other bimar, any other marees, any other person suffering, send them to me. Imam Ridha, a non-Muslim pilot who didn't know your name 5 minutes ago, has a 1-minute conversation with you in the skies over your shrine, and this is what you reward him with. A'imma kisi ke makrooz nahi hote. They do not take anyone's debt. They pay back. Ya Imam Ridha, we ask you on this night, the night of your Shahadat, Mawla, we ask you to grant our wishes, to answer our hajat, to ask Allah to forgive us, to cure our sicknesses, our illnesses. Whoever is giriftar, whoever is in any kind of trouble, oh Imam Ridha, help them on this great night through your wasila, inshallah. Azadaran of Imam Hussein, Azadaran of Imam Ridha alayhi salam. Mamun the accursed invited Imam Ridha by force. Imam Ridha did not have a choice. He dressed it in a way, he spun it in a way to say that Imam Ridha is my successor. Imam Ridha, from day one, he would tell people that I'm not going to succeed him. I know what his plan is. But slowly but surely, Imam Ridha going to these far off lands, away from the traditional lands, it totally backfired on Mamun. The people were in love with Imam Ridha. The people respected Imam Ridha. The people could see a true leader from a fake leader. They could see that this leadership belongs with the family of Rasulullah, not with the family of Ma'mun. Ma'mun had enough of this. He tells Imam Ridha, he calls him to his house. Imam Ridha leaves his home. He says to his companion Abbas Salt, he says, "Oh Abbas Salt, I am going towards Ma'mun's house. If you see me return with a cloak, with my abba over my head and my face, then know that I am in my last moments." Imam Ridha goes. The poison is administered. As the poison is administered into his blessed body, Imam Ridha stands up and begins to walk. Ma'mun says, "Where are you going?" He says, "I am going to that place where you wish to send me." Imam Ridha now walks back to his home. He has the covering over his head. His body is suffering. He is now in pain. He is now shivering. As he walks home, Abbas Salt sees him. Abbas Salt welcomes him. Imam Ridha says to Abbas Salt, "Prepare my room. Help me to lie in my room. I need to rest." Abbas Salt begins to help Imam to lie down. Imam says, "No, Abbas Salt, do not put me on my bed. Put me on the floor and remove even the carpets from the floor." He says, "Mawla, why on the floor?" He says, "I wish to feel something that my grandfather Hussein felt in Karbala. Lie me on the floor." Abbas Salt agrees. He lies Imam on the floor. Imam says to him, "Abbas Salt, now I will begin doing the zikr of Allah. You are to leave this room. Do not enter again until you hear that I have stopped doing my zikr." Abbas Salt leaves, he closed the door. He stands guard at the door. He hears the zikr of Imam Ridha. For a time, he keeps hearing the zikr of Imam Ridha. When the zikr stops, he walks back into the room. When he walks into the room, he sees Imam Ridha's body is there. Next to Imam Ridha is a 9-year-old boy. He says, "Who are you?" He says, "I am the one who was predicted by my father that I will be his successor. He told you about me." Abbas Salt says, "Then how did you enter? I've been standing here." Imam Jawad enters through the power of Imamat and Wilayat. Abbas Salt looks at this scene. Here is the young Imam Jawad ready to perform the funeral arrangements for Imam Ridha. I bet Imam Jawad at that moment must have felt, and he must have thought about his grandfather Aba Abdullah in Karbala. Here Imam Ridha in the far off place Gharibul Ghuraba has his son with him to help him and to prepare his body for burial. Aba Abdullah al-Hussein was that one shaheed of Ahlul-bayt. His body lay on the floor for 2 days. His body lay outside for 2 days. His body never received any kafan. His body was never properly attended to until Imam Sajjad came. This was Aba Abdullah. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Matam Hussein.